Okay, welcome everybody. It's about a minute or so until 3, so we'll give some of our other attendees a few more moments to hop onto the meeting, and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, welcome everybody and good afternoon, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar. My name is Chris Grooms, and I'm an implementation specialist here at FlexChecks. I'm glad you're here with us because this afternoon we're going to walk through together where to find quarter end returns in iSolved. And we'll also take a look at some of the best reports to use for some of the most common report quests, such as work comp audits and employee setups. All right, so as a reminder to all of you in attendance today that you are all muted, so I'm not going to be able to hear you if you have any questions for me. If you do have a question, you can look at the bottom of your GoToWebinar panel, and there's a question section. So you can feel free to go ahead and type in any questions you have, and if we have time at the end of the webinar this afternoon, I will try to answer those questions. If I'm not able to answer those for you today, I will make sure that your CSR does follow up with you with an answer to your question. So let's begin with quarterly reports. So some of the two most common quarterly reports are the federal 941 return as well as the state unemployment return. So we'll start with the 941. Here's what the 941 looks like. Many of you are probably familiar with this form, and this form details the number of employees that are paid in a given quarter, as well as total wages paid, federal income tax withheld, as well as taxable Social Security wages, taxable Medicare wages, as well as Medicare and Social Security taxes that are withheld. The state unemployment return, now these are going to all vary generally by state. This one right here that I have on the screen is our Michigan form. Most of our clients are in Michigan, so this is probably one that you are familiar with. But this is going to be very similar to the 941. It's going to show the number of employees paid in the given quarter. Sometimes it does break that down by month. So this is for the second quarter. So this may be the number of employees that were paid in April, the number of employees that were paid in May, and the number of employees that were paid in June. These also are going to detail the amount of wages that were paid to the employees. It will gross those wages together and then also give you excess wages. That's going to be wages that are above and beyond the taxable wage limit per employee, and will give you the rate as well as the total tax due. As you can see, these reports do provide a great deal of information and are generally going to be needed by accountants to complete your corporate tax returns. And they're also usually requested by auditors who are performing workers' comp audits. Now, these reports are due quarterly, so these are going to always be available in iSolved the 20th of the month following the end of the quarter. So for example, the second quarter ends on June 30th. So the second quarter returns are going to be available on July 20th. And then the quarter three ends on September 30th. And so the returns will be available October 20th and so forth for the quarters. So let's go ahead and get logged into iSolved, and I can show you where you're going to be able to find these reports. So I'll go ahead and X out of these, and I'll bring up iSolved, and we'll go ahead and log in. Now, some of you, depending on your setup, if you have multiple pay groups set up and you maybe are only able to see and manage specific pay groups, perhaps maybe you have one pay group that's like a management payroll that you're maybe not able to see or you don't have access to, you then probably will not have access to this particular section in iSolved because iSolved is going to combine all of the information together. So if this is something that you currently don't have access to and you do need to have access to, feel free to reach out to your CSR and we can kind of talk you through and see what would how we can get you set up with that and what that would mean for your ability to see specific items within iSolved. So to get access to your quarterly returns, you're going to log into iSolved and they're going to be under reporting. As you can see, you've got several options under reporting, and it's going to be the very bottom. It's going to be the one right here that's titled Return Archive. So you're going to go ahead and click on Return Archive. And that's going to bring you to the Return Archive screen. And you can see you can filter by year, by period. So you can filter by the individual quarters, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, as well as the individual months. And then you're also able to filter by whether you want to see the federal returns or specific state returns. So we'll go ahead and let's choose the second quarter of 2019. So if you choose Q2, I'm going to show all of the returns that are available for Q2 for this particular company, and I'm going to click on Filter. Once I click on Filter, all of my returns that are available for you to view are going to show up right here. So you can see right here, federal quarterly tax return, that's going to be your 941. So you see the output item is the report name, the state, whether it's state or federal, the period end date, so the end of the second quarter was June 30th, and then you have this link here where you can click View Report. So you can click on a View Report, and the system will generate in a PDF format the 941 for the company. So as you can see, it's going to print the first and second page, and some of you may have a third page. If you're a semi-weekly depositor, you'll see that third page as well. And these reports will always be in here for you to see, for your record. So if you ever need to go back, it's the fourth quarter of 2019 and you want to see Q1, you'll be able to see that at any point. So then again, right here, the Michigan unemployment return, same thing. We go ahead and click on View Report. And that's going to open that report up in a nice PDF format. You can see that's the entire Michigan unemployment return. Now, let's say you needed to email this to an accountant or somebody that's going to be doing your books or for corporate returns or a workers' comp auditor. A nice feature of iSolved is you could go ahead and check on all of the returns that you want to include. So you could click on these checkbox and then click View Selected Forms. And what that is going to do is it's going to put all of those forms into one large PDF. So you can see you've got the 941 here first. And then we're going to go to the Michigan unemployment form. And then it also has the New Jersey unemployment form as well. So you get it in one nice document that you can go ahead and just email that over to your accountant or anybody who would need it. So in case that's something that would be interesting for you, that's a nice way that you can combine all your reports in one easy to view document. So that's really it. That is how you're going to access your quarterly tax returns. Like I'll repeat what I said a little bit earlier. These forms will be available on the 20th of the month following the end of the quarter. So you just want to wait until then. You can log in and these should be automatically populated for you. As I mentioned before, the 941 and the state unemployment returns are two reports that are commonly required for work comp audits. Now, there's one other report that generally auditors want to see, and that's a payroll register that covers a very specific period of time, and that's not always going to be a calendar year or a calendar quarter. Well, luckily for us, iSolved has a great report built into the system called the Periodic Payroll Register. So if you need to run a register that's going to show each employee and all of their wages combined for a specific period of time, this is going to be a great report for you to run. So where you're going to go to get that report is it's going to be under reporting, and then you're going to click on client reports. And then this is you'll see a list of all the reports that are available to you. So I like to type in what I want, or at least a portion of the word up in the search box, and I'll click filter, and I see here I've got periodic payroll register. So here's where I can put in my date parameters. So let's pretend I'm getting a report request they need payroll data from July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019. You can see here I've got my legal company. If you had multiple pay groups, you could choose specific pay groups, or you could leave it blank and it's going to combine all of the pay groups together. And here I can sort. So let's say I want to sort by last name first. You are also able to sort by first name first, employee number, status. That's going to be whether they're inactive, terminated, or active, their employee status, full-time or part-time. So you've got many different ways that you're able to have this report sort. You can also have the option to include employer taxes, so the employer portion of Medicare, Social Security, and then as well as federal unemployment tax and state unemployment tax. We'll go ahead and say we're going to include those. And then you also have the ability to have the format be a PDF document or an Excel document. So we'll go ahead and click PDF, and you're going to click Generate Report. You see up here, your report request has been submitted in that nice green box, so you know that the report went through. So we're going to go ahead and click on Go to My Reports queue. Now you see I have this periodic payroll register. The status is in process. What I do is you can kind of click on this refresh button down at the blue action bar, and you want to keep clicking that until you see a generate end date as well as this view report link. One thing to notice is you have this purge date here. That's the time and date and time in which the reports will leave your My Reports queue. So when you run a report, they're available for 3 days. So the reports queue doesn't get overloaded with reports that you run over the year. So after 3 days, they will disappear from here. And if you do need to see that after the 3rd day, you'll need to run that report again. So we'll go ahead and click on View Report, and that's going to bring up the periodic payroll register in a PDF format. And as you can see, I've got the client information, so your company name, and then the report date range up here, July 1st to June 30th. And as you can see, I have each of the employees listed on the left-hand side in alphabetical order by last name. That's how I chose to have it sorted. You have all of the earnings codes in this second column, all of the taxes, deductions, and then gross and net pay listed over here. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that you also do have a report total with everything combined. We chose to have the employer taxes shown on this report. So you can see when you look at the tax section for the employees, let me go ahead and highlight that for you so maybe it's a little bit easier to see. You can see that each of these taxes have a little caret top, a little triangle next to it. That's the employer portion of the taxes, so you're able to see that. If you didn't want those taxes included, we would just not click that box in the report setup, and this report would be a little bit smaller because each employee would not have their employer taxes being shown. So this is a great report. Again, like I said, most workers' comp auditors or maybe your bookkeeper or accountant is going to want to see a report that shows it from a period of time that you're not able to get very easily from payroll reports, because those are payroll pay date specific, or even year to date or quarter to date reports, because maybe the time period is not conducive to that. So the periodic payroll register, again, you get that by going to client reports, and you can scroll if you'd like to, but you also are able to type in part of the word of what you're looking for, and you can see you can find periodic payroll register right here. Another one of the most requested reports that I receive is what's called it's an employee setup report. So it's really a report that shows each employee and everything that has to do with their setup. So their addresses, their hire date, their tax exemptions, how much they're being paid, but also maybe what organizational departments they work in, what department and what location are they working, their direct deposit information, job status. So there's a great report in the system built in that you should all have access to that gives out all that information in one great Excel document. So if you go into client reports, and this is going to be called the employee profile report. So again, I can go ahead and just type in profile, and I'm going to get employee profile. You may see employee profile by payroll run. So that's going to give you the data based on the payroll run that you ran, but also an as of date. So you could do it as of the current date. So I'm going to choose employee profile as of date report. And I'm going to go ahead and choose today's date. And we'll go ahead and use this sorting function again. And then you have the option on this report to mask sensitive data. Now, this is going to include employee social security numbers, bank account information. So if it's a report that you may be going to be sending via email, giving to somebody that you want them to have specific data, but not have those important sensitive data points, you can click mark sensitive data and it will mask some of those fields. I'm going to keep it unmasked for now so you can see what they look like. And again, you can choose PDF or Excel. I find Excel to be the best format for this particular report. And we're going to click on Generate Report, and we'll go to my reports queue. This one may take a little bit longer to refresh, so I'm going to keep clicking every few seconds this refresh button on the blue action bar. And I see now I have my employee profile report, and I can click on View Report. This report isn't going to be in Excel format. So one thing to keep in mind with iSolved is when you generate an Excel document, it opens up a new tab in your browser, as you see, and you have this spinning wheel that says, please wait while your report is loaded. For Excel reports, this page is going to continue loading and continue spinning because the Excel document downloads to your computer. So you have to kind of watch it to see it kind of show up in your, in the lower part of your screen. If your computer is not set up that way and this has been loading for a while, you may want to check your downloads folder because this will keep spinning for hours and hours. So you do want to check to see that that report did download, and it did here. So I'm going to go ahead and click open. And here I've got a lot of data. So it spits out a Excel document with multiple sheets at the bottom. So this first one's going to be the employee sheet. So as you can see, it's got a lot of great information. You have the employee number, social security number, name, address. If I keep tabbing over, if you had phone numbers in the system, it would have that information there. If they have self-service email addresses set up, it would be there. Their marital status, if they're active, terminated, their employment category, their hire date. It's got a lot of information for you, what pay group they're in, their effective pay rate, their filing status for federal and state, number of exemptions. So this is really the entire employee setup of each one of your employees. This is a lot of great information if you're ever trying to do an audit to see that you got all the information for the employees. So as you can see, it's got the gender listed. Well, there's some blank spots, which means there are certain employees that we don't have the gender listed. So if you want to go through and get that all updated, this is a great report to be able to run so you can see what data you may be missing in the system. If I go to my next tab, I've got the organization and labor. So if we had locations and departments set up for this company, they would show up here. So again, it's a great thing to see if you're missing anybody's location or department, or you can see who you have in which location and department. You also have pay items. Now, pay items is going to be when they say pay, it's not just their pay. It also is going to include deductions as well. So all of the earnings codes that the employees have, as well as deductions. So I can see that this employee has a deduction for HSA pre-tax for this amount. You can see certain garnishments that would be set up. So this is going to be a great report for you to see what deductions and earnings you have set up for each one of your employees. If you had accrual set up, you'd be able to see what plans they had. Direct deposit information, you can see all the direct deposit accounts that you have set up for the employees. And then jobs and miscellaneous fields. So as you said, I'll go back to this jobs tab. You can see that you would have their job listed, but you'd also be able to see who their manager and supervisor were. So this is a wonderful, wonderful report that gives you a lot of great information on each one of your employees. That concludes, this was one of our shorter webinars that we had. That concludes today's webinar on quarterly returns and other common reports. I want to thank all of you for attending today. I will stay on for the next several minutes or so. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the questions bar. And we ended a little early today, so I will have plenty of time to answer those questions if you do have that. If you don't have time and you log off, I want to thank you again for joining me on the webinar, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.